Hello and welcome to the Cow Corner Dugout. Here we are, Game 16 of the IPL, and wow, what an evening we've so far had. Game started late, but what a treat we've got to see Vaibhav Suryavanshi and generally the Rajasthan Royals batting unit. The first 6 overs got 97 runs. That's basically 36 balls, 19 boundaries, which 8 sixes and 11 boundaries. Only now has it looked like, okay, the rain is, abating a bit because RR, as we are speaking, have lost 3 wickets. But to share all these moments and to share more jokes, anecdotes with me today on the show, I'm having the usual suspects of Trinay and Neerav. And first change is Shamak. Welcome back, Shamak.
Hello, good to be here.
So, guys, what do you make of the chase? When the chase started, did you feel that, man, it's Hazelwood and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar? They'll be able to find a way. They'll be able to find their way against the kid. Did you think that, or did you think that nahi aaj to pitne wala hai sab?
I mean, after Bumrah got hit, I don't think any bowler in the world is safe from web of Suryavanshi. And as an RCB fan, it was painful to see it. But as a big fan of web of Suryavanshi, it was also thrilling. So as of right now, I'm looking at it as now that he's out, I'm hoping that RCB still wins this, but it doesn't seem very likely at this point.
Whoa, if RCB actually win it, right? I'm reminded of a very old game around the same time it was played. If you remember the Singer Cup finals in Singapore, where Sri Lanka were, I think, similar. It's 8 overs, 96 for one, chasing 213 of Pakistan's total, and they ended up losing that game. They just, lost their wits after Jayasuriya got out. So, are they going to collapse? Do you remember that, Neerav? Because you're the only similar age group
Vaguely,
person who.
vaguely. I remember the Singer Cup. Uh, that was in Singapore, right? No, you're talking about the one which happened in Singapore,
What
or the one
Dravid
which
made his
happened?
debut in. The series Dravid made his debut in right after the World Cup. Padang, Jayasuriya blasted like every time he'd come on to bat, he'd score like a fastest 50 or a fastest 100.
Those Singapore tournaments are a little blur in my head. I remember a West Indies series also, where there was Ricardo Powell who.
That was
Uh,
99.
yeah, so those series in Singapore are a
Oh, right,
little
right.
bit of a blur in my
Yeah,
head. Which happened in which order? Um,
Which year
so
was the
what we're talking?
Venkatesh Prasad final or the
That was
match where
against
Pakistan absolutely bottled it?
that was
They were like
96
100 for
96
no
World
loss or
Cup.
something.
World Cup semi quarterfinal in Bangalore. Chinnaswamy.
Yeah, they were like 70 for no loss, and then they lost a bunch of wickets, and they didn't have to chase much as well. And then, yeah, the curse starts from there, I think.
No, I think there was a big chase here. I think India put on 270 odd, right? Which was
India put
at
on
that time
287.
287.
Yeah, but
That
they
was a
got a
big
really
chase,
good
right?
start. No,
They
they
got
got
a
a
good
really good
start.
start, though.
4 in 10 overs.
84 in 10 overs, which was very good.
Yeah, that's a really good start.
Something
I
in
think
those
they had to score like 5 or 4 and over till the end.
It was, yeah. I mean, yeah. 287 to chase was a big deal at that time.
Predictions came in their way, right? They picked Javed Mianda just to have a record of 6 World Cups.
He was
Wasim
done
Akram
by that.
sat out that match. So they had a batsman, like an all-rounder shot.
Well, as the game is right now going on,
Yeah, so a
11
quick
overs.
recap. Shamak, why don't you take us through the RCB innings?
I feel like it was a slightly strange innings because they lost a bunch of wickets early on, but they were also scoring runs at a fair clip. So it felt like this very strange innings where, again, as an RCB fan, I was both happy with the run rate, but also a little bit wary about how many wickets they were losing. And in fact, my dad's also a huge fan of RCB, so we were texting throughout the innings. And every time a wicket fell, we were like, okay, run rate is good, too many wickets falling. And they needed someone to play a good innings, to bat for some amount of time. And thankfully, Rajat Patidar did that today. And Venkatesh Iyer, after I think this is the first time he's played a game this season. Good innings, very useful innings. I think that could, at this point, doesn't seem likely, but that could have potentially been the difference. Those runs he scored, especially in the last over.
Okay.
So again, I feel like
So
lost.
let's talk about that then. 125 for 7 in, I think, 12,
14
13,
overs.
14 overs, whatever it was. And I mean, yes, you're right. They started with a great run rate. I think it was 50 or 4 overs. So, I mean, from going for 12 and a half, it slowly, the wickets do make an impact. So I think by the 14th over, they were about 8.5. And then they bring in Venkatesh Iyer, who's predominantly opened for KKR, and also then in the latter 2 seasons with KKR was a number 5, number 6 finisher. To bring him in at number 9, what was your take at that point in time? See, forget what he ended up doing.
No, I feel like at that point they didn't really have a choice because they couldn't. I mean, it's not like they had a bunch of lower
6
order
overs to
hitters.
go.
They had
There
to.
were
They
6
didn't really have a choice. So I think it was given how many overs there was still to go. I was okay with that decision.
Who else
And
was on the impact sub? I mean, obviously they would have wanted a bowler to come in the second half. But was there any all-rounder category player? I mean, yes, Venkatesh
technically,
Iyer
even Venkatesh
occasionally
Iyer is all-rounder.
has batted. I mean, has bowled for. No, not really. They have a Kanish Chauhan, who's a untested
Yeah.
bowler, potential number 8
Yeah.
batter for his whatever. But yeah,
So I think I was okay with Venkatesh Iyer coming in when he did. Again, they probably wouldn't have chosen him had they not lost that many wickets. But given the match situation, I'm okay with that decision. And it proved to be a pretty decent one. Vaibhav Suryavanshi notwithstanding.
yeah. But what that does is completely changes the RCB bowling attack, right? So right now you have Hazelwood who's come in for. I mean, I'm saying let's discount what's already happened in the match. So going in after 20 overs, 202, par score, above par. What are your guys' thoughts?
My sense was when
I feel like the ball was doing. I feel like the ball was doing a little bit in the first few overs of RCB's innings as well. So given that, and given that both Bhuvneshwar and Josh Hazelwood do tend to get a decent bit of swing, I was hoping that they'd make some early inroads, but obviously that didn't happen. I thought 200 it would have been a par score for most other opponents, but given the form that Suryavanshi and Jaiswal have been in, it was always going to be a bit of a. It would sort of depend entirely on how well they started, and obviously they started brilliantly. So that kind of that par score became well under par just because of that partnership.
So now you have Hazelwood and Bhuvi as two frontline bowlers who are obviously going to be taking the new ball. Nothing much after that, right? Because they needed. I mean, their other 3 bowlers are Abhinandan, Krunal Pandya. No disrespect to him. He's one of the premier all-rounders in the history of the IPL. But fact of the matter is, he's not a. I mean, he's not a bowler you can turn to say deliver me wickets, right? He's a holding bowler at best. Yesterday he got 2 wickets, which were both balls which could have gone for boundaries. And then you have Romario Shepherd as the 5th bowling option, who at the end of the 12th over still hasn't shown up, right? So obviously they're looking at it as a 16-over game and saying Arya par, right? Put your 4 best bowlers because RCB obviously doesn't trust Romario as a bowler, and it's fair enough. I mean, he's got.
It's not a great bowler.
It's not a secret that he's a 4 overs 50 bank, right? So then, what do you do? Like as an RCB captain or RCB management, what do you do? Is it a hope and pray situation where you say, okay, we hope we get out their 2 top batters?
I think that was it really. I think it was pretty much Hazelwood or bust.
No, there isn't so much of gloom actually. See, I think when RCB is bowling second, this is the first time that they're bowling second against a proper team. I know they played against CSK, but CSK can be discounted as one of those teams which are yet to find its balance. But this is the first time they're playing a proper team bowling second under due, and you're also forgetting that this game was delayed by an hour or so. So that's also the reason why RCB could score 70 odd in the last 6 overs of their innings, and they sent Venkatesh Iyer. So that, to me, I think that whole move was a net run rate save move. What could have otherwise gone down from 129 for 7 to 140 all out or 150 all out is now 201. So it means that if like Krunal Pandya has now picked 3 wickets, then net run rate won't be affected as much, like the way CSK had its net run rate, being affected. So I think this is the RCB bowling unit. They will have to be on guard whenever RCB is bowling second. That's just it.
The batters will have to deliver 20 over par pretty much every time, because I think the impact, the change from a Yash Dayal to Abhinandan has turned out to be substantial, right?
Fair.
Because now they don't have a death bowler. Effectively, if you're trying to get in the past. Karthik, we'll come to the tomorrow's games. I think we'll bring up the comments as per the thing. Guys, we encourage you to comment, but let's stick to this match. The match is still not over. And just a recap, Krunal is still bowling bouncers and getting away with them. And I think at the end of...
Okay, question to
current
any
score-
of the RCB guys here. Do you
Oh, he's
think they
not
should
there
have
now.
played Suyash in the first 11 ahead of Abhinandan? Because
I was gonna make that point. I feel like Suyash is probably at this point warrants a spot in the 11, definitely ahead of Abhinandan. Because Abhinandan is really, I mean,
What
he's-
is Abhinandan's batting skill? Because typically what you do is you lose your 11th best batter, right? I mean, that's what typically you do. Most teams do, or a very inferior fielder. So it really boils down to. But then so they were at a point where, well, let's put it this way: when you're going out for the toss, you have those two sheets in front of you, right? As a captain, you give the other, you hand over the one sheet or the other. At that point, you're not thinking that you're going to be 8 down in 12 overs or 13 overs, right? If you're batting first. So I think these are things which people will correct, I think, based on having had bad experiences. Is that a fair comment? I mean, I think.
No, but as
So
the saying
I
goes,
can tell you one thing that Shubman Gill in season 24 handed over the wrong sheet a couple of times. I mean, I'm just letting you inside secret. So he actually ended up having to having a bowler shot and Shah Rukh Khan having to bowl because they ended up he gave the wrong sheet at the toss, right? So there was no.
How does one do that? How does one first of all
you
not
can do. I mean,
verify a bunch of times and then why do we even have?
So let me put it this way: it actually happened 3 times, and one of the opposition captains allowed them to change. So 3 times in one season.
Which wonderful opposition was that? If you can reveal it.
No, I'll let that pass this time.
Okay.
So okay. So how does RCB tackle the rest of the season? Because obviously this is emerging as a problem. Despite putting up 250 on the board the other day, CSK did get to nearly 210. So in a game in which was a similar situation, 6 down early, and the tailenders took it to 210, right? But you had Anshul Kamboj and James Overton. So obviously their back end bowling is a huge problem. How do they address this within the squad they have?
I think the point Trinay made is probably the only real fix that you have, which is when you know that this is your bowling attack, you would, instead of Abhinandan, you'd probably play Suyash, because Suyash is a better bowler. He's played 3 seasons of the IPL, and batsmen do find him slightly tough. Unless and until they were looking at, there are more left-handers, so that's why they didn't want to, get Suyash as a leg spinner in, because you're going to get Vaibhav, you're going to get Jadeja at different points. I'm not sure that was the thinking.
I mean, as I said, at that toss time, I don't think they thought that Suyash won't play. I think even probably Venkatesh Iyer was probably bumming around in, till 10 overs, right? And thinking he's not going to play. Which reflected in the fact that he took some time to get going. But yeah, it was a good finish, which I think 21 in the last over did give them mentally, at least, that 200 is still a mental barrier for teams, right? Chasing 200, then you're, I mean, I don't know how 15-year-olds look at it, but most people in the IPL, I think, say 200 is still a tough chase, right? But obviously not. Trinay, you can reflect on that.
Trinay is thinking, no, not 18, it's 18.
Yeah, I know, but you're closest to that.
Okay, on the chase bit, on the death bowling bit, Hazelwood's a much better death bowler than Duffy is, leagues ahead. So he improves that death bowling. And best case scenario, they get 2 to 3 wickets in the power play, because that's where all their best bowlers are. And Abhinandan is a 5th or a 6th bowler. You preferably want an over or 2 from Romario Shepherd or Tim David in the middle, something along those lines. And Nirav, you said that they weren't expecting that Suyash wasn't going to play. You should pray for the best, but you should also prepare for the worst. Abhinandan is not in their best 5 bowlers. So, and he's not a death bowler either. So why would you play him in the first 11 ahead of Suyash Sharma, who's clearly the better bowler?
You also have someone like Rafiq Salam on the bench, fairly unproven, has played a couple of games here and there, but from what I remember of seeing him in past IPL seasons, seems to be probably a better prospect than Abhinandan at this point. So that could be another way they go down.
So I
And
think you're being a little unfair to Abhinandan because he did okay in the last time he played. Today, I mean, it's like, see, like you said, if Jasprit Bumrah and Hazelwood are going for 14 and 16 runs and over, it's okay if Abhinandan also goes for 14 or 16, right? So I think that was his final thing, and at this point he's probably 2 overs for 30 odd. So it's me. I mean, the thing is, these guys bowl a lot in the nets, right? And obviously the management watches them, and they obviously have a lot of specific skills test, right? So they'll put a shoe at the crease level and say aim for it, or in RCB's case, probably beer bottles. Just here, put them at the crease and knock them out. So obviously, I think maybe these specific skill tests and speed tests, and how good is the slower one, and how good is he at shifting his line to left-hander, right-hander, left-hander, right-hander. These are tests which they do, and I think then they take a call, right? And I mean, just going back to yesterday's game, LSG has so many fast bowlers in the bench, Indian fast bowlers, and probably Prince Yadav gets a nod ahead of them because of these skill sets, right? He brings something in a specific point in time or in a phase of the game, and understands how to bowl in the power play, how to bowl middle overs, how to bowl the death.
Didn't the RCB sign a kid called Mangesh Yadav after the Yash Dayal cloud in the mini auction? What happened to him? Isn't he a much better bowler than him?
I don't know don't know if he's a much better bowler.
Compared to Abhinandan.
He hasn't played too much. I checked out his stats on ESPN Cricket for a while ago. I think just maybe 10 or T20 games he's played, or maybe less than that as well. So not really much of a sample size. Could be tried out, but we don't really know. But also, Venkatesh Iyer has bowled in the past. Yes, he's taken a bit of stick, but would it be worth trying him out for an over or two? Considering
he's bowled in the death, if I remember right, for KKR. Like it was I don't know which season it was, must have been 21 or 22, where they used to give him the 17th, 19th over. He used to just come and bowl 2 overs, him and Russell. They tried it out and he did okay, yeah, because that was just before the impact player rule. I think the year the impact player rule came in, then he was completely disregarded as a bowler. They have to, I think RCB had to approach this game saying that, we've now got our second 11, so therefore there is no impact player rule coming in the bowling lineup. But yes, no Romario Shepherd still at 14 overs is a big question mark. Then I think, despite his batting skills, they have to look at an option.
So I was actually going to come to that. Do you think it makes sense for Jacob Bethel to get a few games in place of Romario Shepherd? But then in that case, where does he bat?
Yeah, he bats out of position then. But
everybody goes one down, right? Everybody goes one down. I think that Rajat Patidar at 5, Devdutt Padikkal at 4, I don't know. Maybe Jacob Bethel at... Yeah,
Bethel could bat 4. These guys have 3 bona fide finishers with Jitesh, Romario and Tim David. I don't see the problem in losing
what we are saying is Bethel in place of Romario, right?
In place of Romario, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, move them one down. That shouldn't be a problem. Especially with Salt going hard at the top.
Romario with the ball, then I think they are happy to not even try Romario in this whole situation. It just shows that
bring in Duffy.
That is the question. Do you want a proper bowler or do you want an extra batter to augment your batting?
Duffy's just another power play bowler, though. I mean, not just, he's really good, but then you're clogging your top, right? He's going to go for 20 at the death, compulsorily.
You could also consider that, and instead of Romario Shepherd, you bring in Duffy. You can just have him bowl in the power play, that's fine. But that also then frees up Hazelwood to bowl more at the death. And then you replace, let's say, an Abhinandan with someone like a Venkatesh Iyer. So you're sort of replacing an all-rounder with an all-rounder, and then replacing a bowler with a bowler. So that is something they could consider.
But Hazelwood is better than Duffy at the power play when he's on full tilt.
Yeah, for sure. But Duffy is probably a better bowler than anybody else, any of the other Indian bowlers in the lineup.
True, but why would you want to take power play overs away from Hazelwood, who besides Bumrah?
No, you're not taking it away. What you're saying is probably Duffy bowls 3 of the 6. Hazelwood and Bhuvi bowl the other 3, which allows you to stretch Hazelwood through the innings. Do what
Exactly.
a Bumrah does. One in the power play, one somewhere around 10-12 and come back for two in the death. Because otherwise, they don't have a death bowler. I mean, we won't get to
Preferably
see the death
Hazelwood
today.
bowls two up top and two at the death. Like middle overs, it depends on the surface really. He's more of a top and tail bowler. Same with Bhuvi. So yeah, that could work. I still want them to try Mangesh Yadav though. I feel he's a pretty decent bowler. Give him a game or two, and then if not, I feel Shamak's combination is the best they could go with.
Well, it's what we discussed up front. The champion teams don't usually make too many changes, and this is now we're talking wholesale changes after 3 games, because whatever said and done, RCB's bowling has been exposed, is gotten covered because they made 250 in the last game. But there is a problem in the back end. I mean, today it was a
That
front
means
end problem as well. But
they've got their tactics wrong, so there shouldn't be a problem with changing it around. Is that like Venkatesh is already a part of the setup, and so is Duffy. You just be swapping around players who you're already using, and if that Chennai team scoring 210, 220 against you, then you do have a problem. If you go up against the MIs and the DCs of the world, it's going to be a lot tighter than that.
Also,
You're not
Chennai
going to
isn't
score 250 against those guys.
sure. While on current unit, Chennai might be bad. I think they're just one or two probable replacements away from fielding a proper team. Even their bowling is weak. But I think Chennai, once they discover their mojo with their batting, it goes through a similar template where teams are trying to outbat each other and they're somehow trying to scramble some bowlers here and there such that they're able to deliver 12 overs of decent bowling. And you always have 8 overs of shit. Most teams have 8 overs of shit. Some teams
Yeah.
don't.
No, yeah, I'm not slandering slandering Chennai too much here. The only difference between a Chennai and a RCB is a Hazelwood and a Bhuvi type bowler, and your top order, similar quality but not in form. So there isn't too much difference, but when you look at it that way, DC is leagues ahead of Chennai, even if they do come to form. And I'm comparing RCB, if they go up against the DCs and the MIs of the world, and those are two really quality teams.
Right, sure. I get that point.
But actually, now that you mentioned that, is this one of the weakest bowling squads we've seen across the board in the IPL? Because I feel like every team has massive gaps, which didn't really seem to be the case in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, that's because half the bowlers got injured from the T20 World Cup, the Big Bash, and whatever other T20 tournaments we had
Yes,
lining up.
A20.
Right? Yeah, exactly. SA20. Very inconvenient. Each team has at least 2 or 3 bowlers out injured. I mean, CSK signed an injured replacement bowler in Spencer Johnson, so you know how down bad the whole league is.
Fair.
Also, I think the way RCB have batted, we are just discovering this part of RCB because they've always been shielded by Bhuvi and Hazelwood in 2025, where they pick up early power play. We've never
there's also
got
Yash Dayal, which really mattered, and Suyash
Yash
had a
Dayal.
good season. Right.
so that's
Suyash
why
had a good season.
you've never.
Oh, and
It's like
by the way, Mario Shep is here finally.
Over number
Yeah.
16. 20 to 25 of 30. 5 runs and over. Okay,
Unless they
somebody
play-
decode Mr. Dhoni's comment. Folks, it's something very open to see, like how RCB used to prepare by database. Similarly, RR did the same bowling. There are some
didn't get
words I'm missing here, I think. I'm not understanding this comment. Anybody understood this?
I didn't.
Are they saying that RCB used to use data, but they don't do it anymore, and RR is doing that now, or something like that?
Based on what?
I don't know. The comment is not the clearest.
It's like a mystic comment. The whole point is, I think you're suddenly discovering. So if teams are now going to go target, these two bowlers, they realize that they have a very soft underbelly where RCB is also going to struggle. They did struggle against Chennai. Actually, if Chennai had one better batter along with Jamie Overton, they could have got closer to that particular target. So RCB, despite taking 5 wickets or 6 wickets off CSK, they still allowed the game to go to 200. So RCB's bowling is far, far weaker than you give credit for what it is. And especially in a dew-filled chase, I think RCB fans are going to be in for, I think, a nervy season ahead whenever they're bowling second.
Okay.
Unless the batters have put up a 20
really
pars.
Correct.
Yeah, no, the top 3 bowlers are really good. Hazelwood, Bhuvi, and Krunal or Suyash. Those 3 are really good. So, top in the league. But when you look at the Abhinandans, the Romario Shepherds, and Tim David,
Well, I think so. It's not like you've got yes, they're good bowlers, but I don't think there's a bank of 12 there. I think it's still, there are still two explode, like two 15 plus overs in there. On a game basis, there will be, there will be times when even Hazelwood will go for runs, at least 2 overs. He might pull it back in the death, or in the death he might go and not up front. But it's not 12 banked, where you're going for 7 to 8 an average, right? It's not. So it's 100 plus there in those 12 overs, and the other 8 will end up giving 100 plus irrespective of who it is, and that's the concern. So you're assuming a 200 plus score against RCB, or most teams should fancy it. If CSK can do it with out of form batters or with top order failing to
Jamie
do so,
Overton and Prashant Veer. But
Anshul
RCB has the batting lineup or the guns to score 250 against most bowling lineups, which is what they're banking on.
It's really difficult to score 250 on a regular basis, though. Let's be. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
they did it against a CSK bowling attack. So in a Chennaswamy, right? So it's not going to happen every day, and the days they need to, they're going to come up against what they did today, right? Where it's going to end up being 125 for 7.
No, it might have been different if they started with Suyash instead of Abhinandan, because I'm not slandering him here. I feel Suyash would have done more in this game than what Abhinandan has done. He would have gone for runs, sure, but he would have gone for considerably less, I feel, or at least taken a wicket or two. We saw how Bishnoi bowled. They're pretty similar bowlers. He could have taken a couple of wickets. I don't know, Suryavanshi or Jural even, who's going to win this game for them as of now.
So CSK fans, what have you got to say about Steve Bhai's comment?
Samson's due, isn't he? Three games he's shit, 3 games he's on top of the world, so he's going to score tomorrow. Hopefully.
Steve Bhai, आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर, or specifically light wala ghee and sugar free wala shakkar?
That's the thing with age, I was meeting Trinay earlier today, and I asked him if he wanted coffee. He said, coffee with sugar. I said, yes, you are at that age where sugar is not, something that you worry about. I'm at that age where I worry about sugar.
I'm diabetic, so I have to be concerned about it. So when ghee shakkar is not something I appreciate.
But yes, Jadeja, talking about his influence.
Shepherd's gone for 7.
Somebody translate.
Somebody translate looks like a very Tamil thing to do, because usually Tamil people.
We've identified where you are from, Steve.
Yeah.
Right? You're not a Hindi belt person for sure. So, तुम्हारे मुंह में is what's the English there?
तुम्हारे मुंह में पायसम. சொன்னது கரெக்ட்டா? Ghee shakkar payasam. Payasam is a Tamil thing. Payasa for this thing.
It means, there's I think the English equivalent is from your lips to God's ears. Right? I think that is
the literal translation is ghee and sugar in your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want your Tamil translated.
Hey, payasam. Payasam kuda therlana apra enna. RCB desperately needs somebody who bowls slower ones like Yash Dayal, and then that was the point that you were also mentioning. Very skilled bowler Yash Dayal, but he's out of the team right now. Is he going to be back, or they've not decided?
No, I think they've ruled him out.
Yeah, he's probably out of the season, and depending on how the court case goes, potentially out of the IPL.
He didn't play any domestic cricket last year after the IPL I think.
That's why I don't think he was playing earlier also. If I can, they say a lot of these young guys, they don't want to play domestic cricket. They only end up wanting to play domestic cricket if it's a question of getting up, if you're not.
No, but with Yash Dayal, isn't there some sort of a court case against him right now?
Yes, there is.
That is why he's been withdrawn, right? He's not injured or something.
No, he's not injured. That's why he's been withdrawn, and that's why I think he didn't play domestic last year.
Yeah.
After the IPL.
So is that why he didn't play domestic? Because if you go through the domestic circuits, you'll find a lot of names missing. There are this breed of guys I've been observing, which includes Yash Dayal, Shivam Mavi, Kamlesh Nagar, Koti, and a bunch of that early 20s, or rather the first half of their 20s, who've come into the IPL at a decent price point and don't go and play domestic cricket after that. So they just come back for the next IPL. What I feel happens is that their match skills get weakened. I personally, that's my opinion, is that they don't want to do that grind because it's tough. And what if you get exposed at that level, right? So they choose not to, and which means that they are mentally not as tough and physically not as tough, and therefore they have more injuries. Karthik Tyagi. So a lot of these guys, I felt they don't, they, unless they have to, unless it comes down to, the team, their IPL team has told them, go and get your, 36 balls or whatever you need to bowl every match. They opt out of local domestic tournaments, especially if they're not in a team which is in a position to win a SMAT or whatever.
Right.
So there is a tendency of a lot of bowlers not bowling in domestic cricket once they're in the IPL scheme of things. Fast bowlers.
On the
That's
slow balls
interesting.
thingy from the comment, I tend to agree because we've seen guys like Mukesh and the KKR bowlers last game exploit it like hell. That seems to be the only thing that's working for fast bowlers after the 10th, 12th over when the ball stops swinging to an extent. The depth, it's been used well, but it's also gone for runs. I don't know how Yash Dayal's slower balls would be work because he has the cutters, right, which he bowls up front. He doesn't bowl short. He prefers bowling full, or he goes for the Yorkers. So I don't know how those would work out.
So it's 14 to win of 21 in my screen right now. Do we assume that it's a done and dusted game? Shamak?
Absolutely.
As
It's
an
only a
RCB
net
fan.
kind of a thing. So I think
As an RCB fan, I'm still holding out hope, but yeah, it's pretty much over.
Dhruv Jurel has picked up
Interesting.
what looks like a calf strain or a cramp.
I think he
Okay.
hit his ankle on the turn.
He did? Oh, it's an ankle. Okay, so I reckon send Trinay and Suryavanshi to open for RR. They will still get 70 in the power play. Suryavanshi 70 or 20. That's below the belt, and that's offensive to Yashasvi Jaiswal, who till half an hour ago was the orange cap holder.
No, I'm sure I could leave all of Krunal's bouncers and I'd get at least 20 runs and buys from those. I won't plot it to third. So we'd be 90 of 24 until Hazelwood comes and knocks my middle stump over.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a comment from Prabhu Dhoni. We'll get to you, Prabhu, for the CSK game once we just finish this game currently. Another point I actually wanted to make is that there was a comment that came. Not comment, it's like a CSK had put up a tweet, and there's a little history to this. If you remember in 2024, when CSK qualified, sorry, CSK didn't qualify and RCB qualified, their next game was RCB versus RR in the qualifier or eliminator, and RCB lost that game. Now, because RCB lost that game, there were a bunch of CSK fans, 4 or 5 of whom are actually there in a group. They went to a place in Chennai, cut a cake, celebrated late into the night, and put it live on social media. Newspapers covered it, saying CSK celebrates. And while that happened, right now CSK, the official ID has actually put up a post of cake celebration, but they're celebrating Jamie Overton's birthday. So I was just trying to notice the parallels there in that whole thing between.
Steve Vai was cutting cake.
It was at the Chepauk. I was there. Okay. Okay, you're talking about the RR victory, but yes, I think these people went for the game and then, they were cutting cake. And since CSK has put that post, I was just trying to see, man, is there a similarity there, or is it really Jamie Overton's birthday?
It's easy to find out when Jamie Overton's birthday is.
But it's a good coincidence to put this in
his brother.
Craig Overton.
And Shamak, aren't you on texting terms with Craig Overton?
Am I on texting terms with Craig Overton?
No.
I'm missing the joke.
I said just ask his brother instead of Google.
I don't know Craig Overton though.
Just pulling your leg.
Yes, April 10th. Oh shit, the guy's younger than me.
Yeah, well, he's
Looking
also
at
earning
Jamie
more than you, so
I don't think that he was younger than me.
he's also
How did
earning a lot
Raiders
more than you.
take in England's test team?
Guys, what do you
Sorry?
think about Jadeja? Jadeja hasn't changed much from the way he used to play for CSK. I know last year there were a couple of knocks where Jadeja had scored like 18-50 balls. It was like his tail was on fire. But now he's back to run a ball knocks. But the value of Jadeja in this setup is far, far higher than for Jadeja in CSK in the last 2-3 years, because here he's there for that stability. That In case they have a collapse, he's there to arrest it, and it works perfectly like a jigsaw puzzle. Do you think Jadeja is fitting in well to this RR team?
Yes, because
Yeah,
they have actual hitters. We had Deepak Hooda and Rahul Tripathi, and all of our hitting had to be done by a 44-year-old man with knee problems and Jadeja. So no, and Dhoni did it better than Tripathi and whoever else. So yeah, there was a lot more pressure on Jadeja in the system, and it looked like he didn't like the boos which were coming from the Chapak every time he got out. Not the boos, the cheers when he got out, because Dhoni was coming in. Like nobody gave him the respect he earned over the. How long has he been here? 12 years, and there was too much in him by the
On
end of
and
last
off.
season. Yeah, yeah.
No, I heard the way you said it, Booze, right? I heard as Booze, and I was like,
me too.
you're in Chennai, man. Where is Booze in Chennai?
Tasmak.
Yeah. For people who don't know what TASMAC is Tamil Nadu Agricultural State Marketing Committee. They are in the job of selling alcohol, and TASMAC is a place where it's like a shed. People buy alcohol, people pee, people vomit and drink alcohol at the same place. It's that bad. That's but an iconic. That's actually an iconic image of Chennai in modern years, where where you get alcohol. Unfortunately, government authorized alcohol.
Steve,
So
are you talking about Jadeja?
Yeah. I think
How?
he would have been, he's still an asset in CSK. Even in this, he was an asset last year because see what happens is he, he's any all rounder who you can put in your team for either the batting or the bowling. And he's batting at number 6 mostly. It's not even like he's in the back half of the 6, 7 at most. So I feel he does the same thing in CSK that he does here. Is you may not need to call upon his services, but in a situation, what happened to an RCB today, if he was walking out instead of Romario Shepherd, you don't need to bring in a impact player. So I feel that is the umbrella player, right? That's what they used to call these guys. Who is your
But we're desperately missing
bring
his bowling.
on rainy day?
I do think
You
that
are
he's
missing
a
bowling
better
for sure.
I think he's a better fit for RR than for CSK simply because, as Chinmay said, with RR you have a bunch of people who can hit. So Jadeja is perfectly fine. Like today, he's batting as per the situation. I'm sure if it was 17 of 10, he'd have tried to score a few runs.
Yeah,
10 of 17, he's perfectly happy to just knock it around for ones and twos.
yeah.
I mean,
What
our whole
happened to
point of
Jadeja, the power hitter? But what happened to him? Because he was this, really aggressive guy. 35 runs of the Harshal Patel over, and then the next couple of years, after the
That's
23
that's
final,
over number 20, right? That's also over number 20. So you have to see where they do this thing. So today I was actually watching a Jared Kimber podcast, which I think came out a couple of weeks back about Dhoni's career. And Dhoni, till over number 17, his strike rate is shockingly low. Shockingly low. Like they've got a system called true strike rate, which is compared to other
minus
players.
37
He's
on true strike
minus
rate, right?
58 on true strike rate till over number 17 at points. Which is so obviously they come from that similar school of thought is hold it up whatever you get whatever you can till over number 18 and then score because you back yourself that if you're in then in those 18 balls you can hit 5 or 6 over the boundary, right, at least. So there are all kinds of players, and I think if Jadeja needed to do it, he would have done it today. I think today that when he walked in, it was 60 of 65 balls or the other way around. So he happily, Dhruv Jurel going steadily at one end at 175, 180, whatever. Should we take a moment to talk about Dhruv Jurel? He's been quite a special fit for RR at number 3, right? He's gone, in as much as Yashasvi has gone unnoticed, despite having the orange cap. Dhruv Jurel has got a couple of good 70s and put them in winning positions, right?
Yeah, in
absolutely,
fact, I
and
think.
the three
Go
of
ahead,
them
go
who
ahead.
are back right now are all products of their high performance center in Talegaon. The way they've been able to herald this young talent, because none of these players came through some other IPL team. They were spotted and they were nurtured at the Rajasthan Royals, and it's so nice and heartening to see the amount of effort being put by an Indian system built specifically to unearth talents. So it's great that they're not spending 20-25 crores in an auction to go get players, and they have unearthed their own. And I'm so happy for Rajasthan Royals. And I remember I met. Their team manager Romy Bhinder during this IPL GT versus CSK final, and I just met him during dinner, and we were having this chat, and he said you should come to our high performance center near Nagpur, where we are. You should see the way we are training. And I was just having some conversations on analytics with them, and I'm so happy for them that they've been able to. They've actually gone and won the game now by 6. And yeah, that Dhruv Jurel, in fact, that sixth over, with the way he took down, the bowling, almost every ball was a boundary, and he was just placing the ball well, timing and placing the ball well. And I think this is a very underrated skill that a batter is able to actually do this without looking ugly at all, especially in today's hyper competitive post impact player, T20, where it's almost like a clubbing sport. So Dhruv Jurel is not the tall guy who's, having these long levers. Without any of that, I'm just happy to see how each of them are able to pursue their aggressive game. And 6 overs, 97 basically killed it.
I think
I
he'd
think
fit on a list of the most improved players, because remember when him and Hetmyer were retained for like 16 crores each, they were absolutely shit the next season. But then now this season in particular, he's been really, really good. And he was pretty decent last year as well.
I think there's also a little bit more role clarity for him. Like he seems to be their designated number 3 now this season, which wasn't the case last year.
Yeah.
Last year they had a problem of trying to fit in Samson, Yashasvi and Suryavanshi at 1, 2, 3, right? So, and then Triyan Parag is also there, so he has to come in early enough. So these will be problems which eventually, you get your auction right to match these. And now I'm sure there are, I haven't checked what their bench strength is, but I'm sure there are buffer players for these guys. So that seems to be if they are thinking well as a management in terms of future planning, scouting, etc., and then managing their team well. But I have a question on this whole scouting, right? Obviously, some teams have got their scouting right and some teams haven't. I mean, LSG yesterday has proved that their scouting is at this point superior than CSK's. But what happens is you get this guy in. I mean, obviously now they're much more expensive, but typically they were getting talents like Yashasvi or whatever, early in their careers. Maybe not Yashasvi is probably a bad example. Probably Dhruv Jurel. Probably Dhruv Jurel or Vaibhav. What price point did he come in at? What?
Vaibhav, less than
20 lakhs?
Vaibhav was base. Yeah.
1 crore.
Base price? 1 crore? I'm thinking Dhruv Jurel in his first pick must have been at 20 lakhs base price or whatever, right? So you come, you invest in scouting for them, then you get them at a cheap price. They eventually in a 3-year cycle, they reach a point where they are gold, and then you have to only retain 5, right? So it actually is sad for many teams that your scouted talents, you have increased their net worth. Then they get money from other franchises, right? Because you know that it only made sense if they were at this price point for you, right? So it really defeats the purpose of actually scouting for and finding unheralded talents. Sometimes I feel that. So this mega auction has to stop at some point, right? There has to be
Yeah. So I actually, if you're talking about this, then I do have thoughts on that. I think the whole mega auction, it also, so there's multiple things. Firstly, it's unfair on the teams who've actually built powerful squads through scouting or through unearthing talent, through giving young players opportunities. So it's unfair on them, firstly. Secondly, even from a fan perspective, if I, as a fan of RCB, have seen, let's say, look at KL Rahul. KL Rahul was on RCB, about a decade ago at this point? I think 2014, 2015 IPL. And he was doing really well for RCB. But then mega auction happened. He went to a different team. So my link with the players who've sort of come through in RCB has now been broken because now they're playing for a bunch of other teams. And of course, KL Rahul now, it's been a decade. But if you think of the iconic RCB players, you go Kohli, Gale, and De Villiers, and then there's like a massive gulf before you can think of anybody else. So I also feel like from a fan perspective, I want a guy to be part of my team for an extended period of time, and that doesn't really happen with the mega auction. As you've said as well, players who've been scouted and who've been built up. And MI at one time had an insane middle order of the two Pandyas and Pollard, and then you had a Bumrah also who sort of comes through the ranks through MI. Of course, Hardik went away, came back.
Yeah, because MI used to have a fantastic scouting system. Fantastic. I mean, they brought Yuzi Chahal to Akshar Patel. These are all scouted. Bumrah, forget. I mean, those guys made it for MI. But the scouts, the talent they brought in their early years from like who hadn't played domestic cricket, right, are now the who's who of Indian cricket.
Absolutely.
All of them have been through the MI scouting. With that time there was Kiran More and John Wright, who used to actually go literally door to door. I mean, and ask who's the next 20-year-old superstar.
So RR and MI, I think, have had
Kuldeep
traditionally
Yadav.
the best
One more.
scouting.
MI.
Sorry.
I said Kuldeep Yadav. One more. I'm trying to think who are the guys who are in the current scheme of things who are actually MI scouts from at some point, right, early in their very
And
early in
RR
their
had
careers.
that as well. RR over the years have also brought in a fair few guys who went on to become big names in Indian cricket. I feel like most of the other teams haven't really had great scouting. Like CSK, not at all. RCB for a long time, not really. So I think the gold
GT brought in
standard
Sai Sudarshan at 10 lakhs, I think, or whatever, 10, 20 lakhs, whatever the base price was.
We
Yeah.
brought in Gaikwad at 50, didn't we?
Yeah.
We knew how to put teams together. We didn't really look at the scouting side of it. We said, okay, we have these guys. What gaps do we need to fill in? And we'd fill those gaps in pretty decently. So we'd qualify every year. We didn't really concern ourselves with scouting. Okay, I'll play devil's advocate here. I am not a fan of the mega auction either. But Shamak, Deepak, Nirav, whoever wants to take this, what system would you bring in to replace the mega auction if you were going to scrap it from the next cycle onwards?
So I'm a big fan of the NBA, and I think the NBA's system might be a little bit more democratic. So you should probably still have caps on how much you can spend per year. Otherwise, an Ambani is like buy out all the big players. But with the NBA, the system is that you have a draft every year. So players who haven't yet played in the NBA, generally young players, are part of the NBA draft, and then each team gets one pick in some somewhat random, somewhat not quite random order. But essentially, the new players are drafted in, and then they have a contract for a certain number of years, following which they become free agents. Once you're a free agent, you can go and play on like it kind of then it becomes which team you want to play for, and it's a lot like I said, it's a lot more democratic. So we could potentially do that. We could have a similar system to that, where you draft the new players or maybe players who haven't been in the IPL for the last 2-3 seasons, and the rest of the time it's like a free agency where a player can choose to stay or go, and that sort of between the player and the team.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a similar system to what happened with the under-19 team all the way back in 2008 or 9.
Correct.
Okay, then what if you have a Virat Kohli or a Kiran Pollard level player at one slot, and then he gets chosen, and then somebody considerably less is after him? Wouldn't anybody break the bank?
Guys like Pollard and Kohli would be free agents. So again, the modality would have to be set. So you could potentially have someone who's played fewer than 10 IPL games, for example, just arbitrary number. That sort of a person goes into the draft, and if once you've played 10 plus IPL games, if you're not contracted to a team, then you're a free agent. Then you can be picked up by anyone.
But then the Ambanis will just pay them 100 million.
So there has to be some kind of a salary.
Yeah, and I think even the NBA hasn't been able to curb the outside of the cap payments, right? Because there are
But that is happening in the IPL even now.
That is
Yeah, the Hardik Pandya thing, you're basically throwing that open, right? The mega auction at least has some sort of a lid on that. In my opinion,
there are technically salary caps even in the IPL, and we can assume with some amount of certainty that those salary caps are not followed under the table.
In the trades, yeah, but in the mega auction, you can only buy them for that amount of money. It doesn't matter how much you're giving them outside. That doesn't matter.
No, for retentions, it matters for retentions.
Yeah, exactly.
Hypothetically, you can only you think Dhoni actually got paid only 4 crores from CSK? I mean,
Absolutely. Advertising and
there's other deals which come into play, right? And in Ambani's case, they can
they can pay anybody anything, right? They just build a crack team all over again.
Yeah, they can they can provide like 3 petrol pumps and gift it to them. So I'm saying there are other ways of doing these things. Really, the world operates in very.
And I'm sure that's happening.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about increasing the number of retentions? So the team can build a culture around a certain group of players, increasing the number of retentions to like 10 or 12, and then the mega auction cycle continues.
Before you go on to the next topic, I just want to very quickly say bye. I have a bus to catch. So you 3 of you can continue with the conversations. I've had fun being today. We had 68 of our members. So if you have any comments, please do put the comments in. The group will be reading out the comments. I'm going to be taking your leave, and the group will soon, after the conversations are over, also say bye. But at that point, I'm sure we're going to hit 100. We're at 68 right now, 68 live concurrent viewers. So to all of the other viewers who've been joining us, thank you. I'm going off. The three of them will continue.
We have
See you,
tomorrow's
Karthik.
match to discuss, as well as a few other topics. Have fun, Karthik. Enjoy the bus ride. All right. So, any other thoughts on? I mean, this is a never-ending debate, right?
Yeah,
The IPL
absolutely.
auction system. But there were a few things done right in year one. One was that the under-19 draft, and one was there was a concept called catchment area, if you remember. Do you remember this concept?
A certain number of
You had
players.
to pick a certain players from, to build local identity.
Yeah.
Which was one of the biggest things I miss right now. I mean, I feel like it's as a Tamilian, you would want to have Tamilian players in CSK, right? As a, you know what I mean? As a Mumbaiker, you'd want.
Yeah.
So Mumbai willy-nilly ended up with Surya and Rohit. But I
Yeah.
know like for the last year that I was at GT, there was not one Gujarati in the team. There was 5 Tamilians. And I think I mentioned this in the other day that on the GT versus CSK final, there were guys in CSK talking in Gujarati on the field. While a partnership, it was Jadeja with somebody else. And on the GT side, there were 5 guys who could speak Tamil and nobody could in the Chennai team. So that was it is as bizarre as that can happen, right? So I'm hoping that I would like regional identities. I mean, Bangalore has enough cricketers now. They finally got a Devdutt Padikkal, I think, this year. And last year there was Mayank Agarwal, and that's about it, right? There's one more.
So I
There was
think
one
the
more
only
guy.
the
who was
only
in the
IPL team
squad.
that actually has consistently throughout the 18 years had local representation is Punjab.
Punjab.
That's literally the only one.
At the start,
they
did they
should-
have much? Because they were I don't think they had much in the first couple of seasons, did they?
No, of course
No, they did. They had Yuvraj Singh as their icon player.
Yeah, the icon, but the others.
No, they did. They got a few guys through this catchment scheme, right? Everybody had to. Each team had to get. There was a region defined, and you had to pick up players from that region. I think you had to have a minimum of 5 of those. That was so. It was not. Those were not part of the main auction. So the main auction, you were actually only picking up half your squad. You had to get a under-19 draft 2 players, and you had to get catchment area 5 players. And
Going on to the under-19 draft. Okay, there's only one, there's Manish Pandey left. There's Manish Pandey and there's Virat Kohli left in this current cycle. Yes.
Jadeja.
Jadeja. Everybody knew how good Virat Kohli was back then, but
Not really.
because
Not really.
No one knew how good he was. They knew he was good. Obviously, he was the under-19 captain. No one knew how good he was. Nobody in 2008 predicted that Virat Kohli would become Virat Kohli.
but
So do
they
you
still
know
knew he was the
Virat
best player.
Kohli's? Do you know the name of Virat Kohli's teammate who was they used to have a thing called emerging player of the season or whatever that
Pradeep
award
Sangwan,
is. No.
Shiva
The guy called
Goswami.
Shrivats Goswami, who was opener for that under-19 team,
Yeah.
and he was his first year he was given the he was projected as the next big thing. So it happens, right? I mean, Manish Pandey at under-19 level was, and he made it at a domestic level also very, very quickly. You never know what goes wrong, right?
In fact, I remember in that
my point
Virat Kohli-
is, if you know that level of talent is in an auction, there will be a couple of teams who will break the bank for him and who want him. But in a draft kind of system, you know it's luck. You can't change it. KKR had a very shitty. They had 7 and 8 in the draft. I think they had a very shitty draw, and no one even remembers who they got anymore. So that's my
No, so that's fair. But so generally, going back to the NBA, how the NBA works is generally the least successful teams of the
Gets
previous
the first
season
pick.
get
Yeah.
top picks.
Yeah.
It's not always exactly that case, but that's generally the math. It kind of becomes a lottery system, and even there is some jhol that happens. So let's not go into that. But essentially, the idea is that the weaker teams get the top drafts, and the stronger teams get lower drafts.
okay.
And even in the
that makes
NBA,
sense.
by the way, ultimately, look, when it comes to young players, you can assume that there'll be a level of quality, but it's really difficult to predict because there have been, again, in the NBA, there have been so many people who were picked very high, like the top 5 draft picks, who kind of fizzled out or didn't really have much of an impact. And there have been guys who have been picked 13th and 15th who've ended up like Kobe Bryant, for example. Everyone who has heard of a basketball player has heard of Kobe Bryant. He was the 13th pick in his draft. There's currently the best. Yeah, exactly. Michael Jordan was the number 3 pick. To be fair, the number 1 pick of his draft was Hakeem Olajuwon, who was an absolute legend as well. That was a crazy draft class, but again, different topic. The current best player in the NBA, in my opinion, a guy named Nikola Jokic, he was the 51st draft pick in his draft class. 51. It was actually like when he was drafted, there was an ad for Taco Bell that was being played on TV. So and that guy has been like, he's a 3-time MVP, 1-time NBA champion, phenomenal player. So the point is that you don't always. It's not necessarily that the top 2-3 draft picks end up being huge players. It could also be that the guy who goes in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th ends up being the best player of the draft. So it's a bit of a.
I think a hybrid model maybe have more retentions and a draft pick system for uncapped Indian domestic talent for sure, right? Because I don't know, but then it's more or less it comes back to the same thing, right? Some teams value somebody higher. I mean, obviously enough. I mean, see, we keep shitting on CSK for going at 14 plus for those 2 boys, but they only went there because other teams were interested, right? And Mukul only stopped at 22.6 because the only other team which apparently was interested for him was MI, and who had only 95 lakhs in their purse. So they pushed till 95 lakhs, then had to let go or whatever, right? That's the story I'm reading. And so then somebody else came in and said, okay, whatever, right? So these kind of things will end up happening even in a draft system where there will be. I mean, but then yes, I think a 5-year contract for players should be a minimum, to at least allow them that curve of success for a new guy coming in, because it takes that much time, I think.
And another thing in the NBA is that you can always. So every year there's a trade window. So if a player isn't working out, or if the player isn't fitting into the team combination, they can be shipped off to another team, which is what happens right now as well. But right now it happens in the off season. In the NBA, it happens during the season as well. So for the first half of the season, you can actually trade players between teams.
But there comes the salary cap question again, because there's teams clearly richer than others. And okay, you can say that I'm going to pay him 3 crores. What's them stopping paying a franchise another 10 and then the player another 20? It's you can't track all of that.
But then
it's a lot worse in the IPL.
You can't track this in the current scenario either.
Yeah, but there's less emphasis on trades. There's only one Hardik Pandya every couple of years, and 90% of it is in the auction.
There've been at least 7-8 players who've been traded this year, right?
Yeah, but compared to the 22, 23 in each squad,
Samson.
That's pretty. Yeah, Samson.
No, there was only Samson, Jadeja, Karan. Every team has had a trade here.
I'm talking about the big money trades. The ones that make huge trades.
But those will happen, few and far between in any case.
No, but if we involve this will skyrocket, right? Like there'll be a lot more trades compared to what we have now.
Why would they have a lot more trades?
If you have the window during the season, any team that has, I don't know, a bad auction or a bad draft, if they have extra money in the bank, they can just go and buy off other teams.
But wasn't there is a post-auction trade window as well, right?
Yeah, but it's only for a bit on the off season and a little after the auction. You're increasing it to during the season as well. So if MI, I don't know, has a couple of injuries,
okay,
or
maybe not have it during season, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, okay, then that should work then in theory.
But even during the season, the point is that so the whole point of having this trade window during the season is that once the season begins, okay, some players are injured, some people are out of form, someone is a very good player not getting game time. For example, Jacob Bethel. Very, very good player, would probably walk into the 11 in most teams, but just because of the way that RCB is structured, not getting too much of game time, might get some game time, might not. So if RCB know that right now they need a bowler, they could potentially ship off Bethel to a different team, get a bowler from there, and then both teams will kind of benefit from that.
True, but there's also a case where DC have a lot of spare batsmen, right? They have.
But this could have been done this could have been done 2 months ago also. They knew this scenario was happening, right?
Fair.
Jacob Bethel came into India knowing fully well he's not playing.
Yeah.
Right. Unless Phil Salt has a disastrous 5 matches. That was the only way he's playing. He knew it. Okay, he's happy to come because he's getting paid well, and their skills do go their skills do improve a lot during an IPL season. I mean, his one season at IPL drastically, improved him. Made him a test batsman, made him a one-day centurion as well as a T20 centurion. That one season of at RCB on the bench. Right?
Okay, then
But,
look at
okay.
DC's pair batsmen. Look at DC's pair batsmen. Let's say two franchisees, both have shit-firing batsmen. Take a CSK and I don't know, take Lucknow. Let's say they need a couple of batsmen. Two good batsmen, and DC is the only team with the highest quality batsmen. Let's say from the auction purse they have the same amount, but back end only one team can pay you more, and you cannot track that back end, right? In an ideal world, one player goes to each team, but if CSK, in theory, if CSK pays a little bit of back end to Lucknow or to DC, they can be like,
There are
okay, both
always
players are going there.
finer points in the modalities which will have to be ironed out. But I think there has to be a wider way of handling retaining of talent for a franchise. I think that's the more one I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If a franchise wants to build a team or a legacy or a fan base, they need. I mean, tomorrow Rohit Sharma and Surya, they'll disappear next year from Mumbai Indians. The Mumbai Indians has to start from scratch with just Hardik, right? So luckily they've had a Tilak Verma come in 2-3 years now. But two players is not enough, right? No franchise team in the world, whether it's in Premier League or La Liga, is built around one or two players, right? I mean, yes, there are exceptions, but that's as exception as CSK with Dhoni, right? There will be that one exception, but then there is a time when you need to have 6-7 players who, the multiple jerseys need to be sold, not just one.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that thing, I'm honoring the god of cricket and respecting what he has to
Bradman.
say. He said,
Prediction
I'm
time.
the prediction time. Prabhu Dhoni, finally, there's a comment I understood, which says, jump into tomorrow's game. Excited to hear some insights from you folks. Steve Bhai is saying my message is not showing up. By the time somebody's, and then he's saying, I've spammed, I think I'm in broken into chat. Steve Bhai, nothing like that from our side. All your messages are coming in. If it's pertinent to what we're talking about, we're bringing it. And he said a lot of things about the India draft, actually. We were involved in the comments. And he says, the comments take so long to show up, the topic moving on. So we are moving on now, finally. We're moving on to tomorrow's game. It's there are actually two games. It's a double header. So there is what's the first game? Punjab and Sunrisers.
Punjab and SRH, yeah.
And
The second is CSK DC.
CSK.
So I guess you guys only want to talk about CSK DC. So let's.
No, let's
Get
start
on
with Punjab SRH. It's
Punjab
the
Sunrisers ought to be a
closely
great game.
competed. Yeah, it's going to be one hell of a game, man.
You think so?
The second one's a walkover. The Punjab SRH one.
So thoughts? Where is the? What is?
I think Punjab are continuing from last season. They are one of the stronger teams and probably one of the more exciting teams to watch this year as well. So, but also SRH has been, at least from the batting perspective, it's been blockbuster for the last few seasons. So I'm looking forward to that match a lot more than the DC CSK one.
Really?
But
Okay.
if I have to predict, I'm going with Kings 11. Oh, Punjab Kings, sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, they have really good new ball bowling. Their backend's pretty good. And, any Harpreet Brar who's been on the bench these couple of games, he'd slot in anywhere, right? The fact that they can bench a guy like Harpreet is a really good sign. And their batting has been firing on all cylinders as well. They've been going pretty well. So, yeah, all round, I feel they're the better unit. Cooper Connolly, I didn't expect him to come off the way he did so far. He has. I think, is that Nirav, is that you?
Yeah, I just put up a potential. I mean, I've just shortlisted their 14 odd. Would you see any changes because they've not gone to this last option yet? I mean, it's been Xavier Bartlett, XB Xavier Bartlett. So this has been
If
their
you
11.
wanted to play
I'm saying
Brar, I'd bench Vaishak.
You bench Vaishak and play Brar. Okay.
No. If you wanted the extra spinner.
At,
Well, Vaishnav has been decent.
he's
No,
been
Brar's
decent,
been
and
better, though. He's not been bad.
it's a pace bowling ground, right? So
Yeah, then play the Pacers, I guess.
would you look at replacing Stoinis? He's seeming to
Nah.
be struggling. No, not
Yeah,
now.
I was
Really?
actually thinking about that as well. He hasn't been at his usual, like Stoinis has been a bank for the last few years. hasn't really been that much this season, but it's been what, 2 games, so I don't think it's
Yeah,
really too
I
early.
think yeah.
Too early.
Stick with him for half the season at least. He's a really good player, proven at all levels of cricket. I mean, give him a couple of give him
Okay.
some time.
So let's go through what we think is our
Sunrisers level.
best. Yeah. I mean, the top 3 writes itself. Top 5 writes itself actually.
You'd shuffle 4 and 5 in a couple of scenarios, but sure.
Who Klassen with
NKR.
NKR has okay. NKR has been coming.
Yeah, it's NKR.
Okay, and then there's Verma, right?
Actually
At,
been doing well this year.
Aniket Verma, you've got.
at 6. Then who else is there? Now their problems start because
Yeah.
NKR has been their best bowler. Harsh Dubey didn't do too badly. I think I would put him in as a spinner for sure. Who else makes third?
Is Bryden Cars fit? I heard he was out injured or something. If he's fit, then he slots straight and right. I mean,
You think so?
you need a guy bowling 145. Yeah. I mean, they have 4 slow ball bowlers. Bench David, Vitality, Blast, Payne, and play Cars. That's quality bowler. I mean, can't be worse than Payne.
I'll just pull up there.
Yeah.
So they have obviously Unadkat, Patel. Would you play Livingston? I think he got a run last time. Did you continue with? And
I think
You do, right? He can bowl the spin, the matchup spin, and
he's
later
not
on hitting.
a particularly
might as well.
good spinner, and I think they've got more than enough firepower. I feel like Livingston is a bit of a, I don't want to use the word waste,
Luxury?
but he's, luxury is probably a better word, but he's a luxury you don't really need. Like, you're not going to call upon his
No,
batting
but
very
you do
much.
need it. You need the luxury, don't you? Because there's a very good chance that Ashdeep, Marco, and Bartlett run through your top 3. There's also a chance they get off. But against that kind of opening bowling, you need a guy like Livingstone.
Has a pretty deep batting lineup, right?
No, you have Aniket at 6. Or in my 11, hopefully, Livingstone at 6 and Aniket at 7. So you would play him, wouldn't you? How many foreigners is that? That's 3 plus, 1 foreign pace bowling all-rounder. Either, hopefully it's Cars. And
Why
Cummins
wouldn't it be?
when he gets
Why wouldn't it be Malinga?
I don't know, man. All of them have been going for 15 runs and over. It doesn't seem to make a difference. The spinner, Harsh Dubey, is the only light at the end of the tunnel for them. The others, they come and they go. I don't know if it's been planning or if it's the quality of the pace bowlers. As we said, a lot of them have been injured. Their best bowler isn't even in India. Has Cummins landed in India or is he still in?
I'm not aware.
Or is he still down under?
Last year they played Zishan Ansari for a bit.
Yeah.
He got smacked.
I actually like the look of him though. For some reason,
He went for runs
remember.
though. Then you play 2 spinners and go with, I don't know how many ever seam slots you have left. So prefer top 7, you preferably slot in with batters. Aniket at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Play Harsh Dubey and then 3 seamers.
There's also, I don't think he fits into it necessarily, but worth talking about. There's Ravichandran Smaran, who is one of the
I was about to come to that. I have a very high regard for him because of what I've seen in red ball. I actually have no idea.
If
I
I
have no idea
remember
what
correctly,
he's
he had decent either Smat or Vijay Hazare. The white ball tournament, he did quite well.
There's some disturbance from your mic.
So yeah,
He's good, but why would you play him?
that's the thing. I don't think he slots into this lineup, but I do think he's an intriguing player, and if we need someone to kind of back up the like a situation like today where most of the top order is out, if he's there in the impact player list, I would not mind seeing him in the 11, like just slotting in case of a collapse.
What do you
Yeah, fair enough, I
think
guess.
of what's it called? Kamindu Mendes.
Nah, I don't think you need him here. Waste of a foreigner slot. Not that he's not good. I feel you have better options. I mean, Head's going to open. Klaasen's been their best batter so far, in my opinion. And Livingstone, more useful for that role.
Yeah, I think between
So then-
Kamindu Mendes and Livingston, probably I would go with Livingston as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Liam
Unless you want
Livingstone.
to go all Indian pace, play another batter up top, and so you can get a couple of overs out of him. But I don't think they do that.
I do think Gas is a good option.
I mean, he's probably the fastest bowler, isn't he? And everybody else bowls 120, 130. Cars can crank it up to 145 if you need him to, and it's a little bit of variation. So it's a little bit of variety. You take that, wouldn't you?
So here in this 12, this is 12, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 actually. So there's space for one more bowler, I feel.
So do we want to
Indian
bring
Indian bowler.
Bobby?
He's not even been in the impact subs list, so I don't know what the
Is he injured?
status on him.
Who?
I have no idea. That's another beautiful thing I wanted to talk about yesterday. They had an interview during the LSG innings with Tom Moody, right? And they asked him about what's happening with Hasaranga. He said he's out. He's not going to play for us. We are getting a replacement substitute player, and it'll be announced within 24 hours. And sure enough, an hour after the match, it was announced. And the way there was a candidness in the in revealing this guy's injured, he can't play for another thing. He talked about Mohsin Khan's injuries, and he's okay enough to have gone today. But I like the way that they are being honest. I feel most teams just hide the fact that players are injured, and being a part of the social media team for teams in the past, it's happened to us also that we were told don't there was this one leading batter whose finger was injured. We were supposed to not show his hand. I think Shamak is nodding like he knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Not really, but I do have a similar story to that.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. Like we are told, don't and then there have been times when I've been part of a squad and we've been shooting with a person, we don't know he's injured. Like we don't know. Like it's not a visible injury, right? A side strain or a muscle thing inside. It's not like you're blinded or your ears has been cut off. So it's not a physically visible injury. I don't know why they try and keep it a secret. I really don't understand what benefit a team gets by not letting their fans and generally people at large tell me, explain.
Okay, let me put it
Thing I would
in the Ashes in 23, was it? Yeah, in the Ashes in 23, England revealed that Mark Wood was injured, and Wood was the only one that the Australian batsman feared. Okay, he didn't play the first test because of injury, and apparently in the Australian camp there was like, oh, thank God he's not playing, because they're not scared of him, but he's going to rough you up. So they're not hiding it from their fans exactly; they're hiding it from the opposition, because it's one step easier for them to plan. Like if Mark Wood's not playing, it's easier for you to it takes your mind off
Not
things.
really, man. At the top level, you're prepared to play the best bowlers at their peak. That's what you train for.
I don't think it's just about planning. I think it's also tactically, if you as the opposition know that you don't have to make plans for a certain player, it just makes it that much easier for the think tank and for the players as well to kind of that you don't have to plan for one player. For example, if let's say there's a really crafty left arm spinner, you'd much rather not reveal the fact that this left arm spinner is not going to play, and therefore have the opposition batters train against left arm spin, as opposed to not having to worry about that at all. So I do see that the tactical advantage of not revealing injuries, especially to key players, but also in some cases it's possibly just a case of don't know this guy's going to play, or maybe there's an off-field issue that we don't want people to be aware about. So I understand why teams aren't always very forthcoming. But yes, as a member, as someone who's also worked with social media teams of IPL in the past, it can get very annoying.
Okay, here's another example. Australia have very clearly said they target one guy when they're going after the opposition. Virat Kohli for most of the last decade. If he's not playing, wouldn't you rather have them and their data team waste half their time planning for Kohli when he's not even going to play, and just not reveal it, and then tell everybody on match day, oh, captain's injured? There's a tactical advantage. It may not be the most ethical, like Neerav said and Shamak, you did as well, but it gives you that advantage which you need at the top level of sport. That 2% could make the difference between the a series try or a series win or a match.
I don't know. I don't think it. I mean, they prepare for them. आज नहीं तो कल तो face करना ही है ना. मतलब it's IPL is a 14-match series minimum, right? So you go in preparing for the best playing the best bowlers, and as bowlers, you how to get their top 5, 6 out, right? In case, and typically, so I'm sure tomorrow, I feel Punjab will be making plans for Livingston, irrespective of whether he's playing or not.
Yeah, fair.
Right?
There's
You
a
don't know if he's
considerable difference between a Liam Livingstone and a
Right.
Kohli or a Wood in terms of preparation, right? There is a considerable difference in the quality of those sets of players. Wood was seen as the guy who was going to tear through the Australian batting lineup in that Test series because when he went over in 21, he was the only one who took wickets, and that's because he's the only one who can bowl above 150. Liam Livingstone is not that kind of difference maker in the team. That's Travis Head or Abhishek Sharma, and they're going to be putting most of their resources towards that top three. Maybe even you can include Klaasen in that as well. Livingstone is like, okay, fine, he's decent. Let's we have these plans against him, execute it. That's all.
Yeah, I think that also makes sense. Like let's assume that one of Travis, Abhishek, or Ishan Kishan are not going to play. Maybe Punjab are preparing to play an off spinner and have that off spinner open bowling, and then on the day of the match they find out, oh, one of these guys is injured, not playing. So that also then kind of throws off Punjab's plans because they've planned exclusively for this one bowler to
Exactly. Yeah.
On the
That's
day,
close
other
to
than the
over,
toss, they realize that's not going to happen. So it is definitely a tactical advantage to not be forthcoming about injuries or just in general unavailability of players.
Yeah, exactly. Neerav's looking at it as okay. He thinks you're looking at the angle from they're hiding it from the fans. You don't want to tell the fans. In reality, I think you guys have a lot more experience than me. I've not worked with any IPL teams. I feel they're hiding it for a tactical reason, which is it has given them an advantage before.
Injuries on the day of the match is but in a long term case, if a guy is not playing for 5 days, just let people know. No, Dual Brevis is not playing 3 matches. Bata do. Yeah, we are hoping that he'll come back tomorrow, right? Or whatever next match against DC, right?
See, in a league where the 4th and 5th has been a qualification slot has been taken away by net run rate, not even points. Forget about points. Where net run rate has taken away qualification, would you not want that advantage at least for the one game? If teams plan for Brevis, who is probably in our best 3 batsmen, that is some sort of tactical edge that we have over them to an extent. They think we're going to play this one way when we're going to play a different way. I know the example doesn't hold up here because the rest of our batting is shit, but if it wasn't, it might have been a different case.
Okay, so on that note, is this a fair 11? Sorry, I didn't have.
What's #7?
Number 7.
Who's going to play number 7?
Karthik.
Who is number 7?
Karthik. No. Dhoni's not fit, is he?
Dhoni's not fit? Okay,
allegedly. I saw him batting in the nets a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how.
This will probably be Prashant.
Is that will be Prashant, you think?
Yeah, probably. Prashant, yeah.
Brevis fit?
Yes, he is.
What's the update on? So Prashant Veer, right?
Yeah.
Brevis is fit. Nothing on Dhoni yet, I think.
Yes.
Prashant probably slots in at 7. Our specialist batsman.
Does Prashant also bowl?
We think
the rest of the world thinks so. CSK apparently doesn't.
Yeah, that's what.
No, they let him bowl on the practice wickets in the game against Punjab right before the inning, and then in the game they don't throw him an over when it's a bloody dead rubber at the end. At least, okay, if you have the wherewithal to give Matt Short an over in the first game, okay, dead rubber, whatever. Why the hell can't you give Prashant Veer, who you broke the bank for?
Would you trade out Henry for Akil Hussain?
I would probably trade out Overton for Akil Hussain.
Overton's batting is too handy.
No. Overton's probably their best asset
He's the
here.
best batter right now. Right?
Yeah.
So
and he's probably the second or the third best bowler.
Sarfaraz has been scoring consistent, quick runs, and I feel like he's not getting the respect that he deserves.
He is. Okay,
True.
fair enough.
Yeah, okay, then still second best batsman. I'd take him over Uttaraj any day of the week.
That is right now, based on the last couple of games.
No, this also. This.
DC, do you really need to bowl spin to them? I mean, we saw what Patham did to Santner last game. So do you need a power play spinner? We know how that matchup went for Mumbai with Santner. So I would not bowl Akil to Patham. There's a better chance of Henry taking a power play wicket than Akil against this batting lineup. I think there's a better matchup here,
So stick with
regardless
more
of
or less the same 11.
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
was okay. So this is pretty much the same team. So, which except for Brevis coming in place of Karthik. That's effectively what's happening here. Because they've been
Yeah,
playing
pretty
with 2
much.
and 3.
See, on paper, if you showed this 11 to somebody before the season, everybody would tell you that this is a crack batting lineup because on talent it is. Unfortunately, the only one who's come off besides Safraz is Jamie Goddamn Overton, which is
And Ayush in one game.
Yeah, Ayush in one game. But the other two soft dismissals, right? There's talent here. They should be scoring runs, which I think they will eventually.
But they will. I think this is too good of a batting lineup to consistently fail throughout the season. If so, that's just like a generational run of bad luck. But I think at some point they're going to come good. It's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, and Prashant Veer has to bowl at some point, right? Hopefully he can hold up.
I felt in the last game they should have let him. I mean, he would have done no worse than anyone else in a 250 score.
Let's not forget Shivam Dubey is a World Cup winner and he bowled the last over of a game.
He bowled the opening over of the Asia Cup final. Dude.
Yeah.
So opening over, like they gave him a new ball. The Hardik wasn't playing. So he's a alternate to Hardik Pandya in the CSK team.
Brad Haddon is a World Cup winner.
They've got too many new ball bowlers. There's Noor, there's Henry, there's Khalil, there's Kamboj, and there's Dubey.
And Dubey's not a new ball bowler. Overton prefers the new ball, so you have 4 guys who all want the new ball and are shit outside of the new ball.
Overton is a first change bowler even in.
He bowled with the new ball for England, didn't he? In the T20 World Cup along with Archer, he bowled the 3rd or the 4th over. I qualify.
Everyone wants to bowl with the new ball if they have the opportunity and if they have the chance. I don't think anyone.
No, but the problem is these guys are shit without it. Ball. Henry can't bowl in the death. Neither can Khalil. Could maybe. Kamboj definitely can't.
Not bad of a death bowler, yeah. Of this one, he's the best death bowler.
He's going. Yeah, it's a crap bowling lineup. That's why.
So they have to. The bowling has to step up a notch. Anybody in the comments has a point of view on?
Also, doesn't Sarfaraz bowl leg spin?
Yeah, so does Yashasvi Jaiswal. They're not going to let him lose
an
IPL bowling lineup.
No, but Sarfaraz, I seem to remember him bowling leg spin regularly, certainly more so than Yashasvi Jaiswal. But maybe I'm just.
Wasn't he a keeper? Can't he keep? Like, didn't he keep for an?
He also keeps. But he's not a natural keeper. He kind of developed that as an additional skill.
He is CSK's very own Glenn Phillips.
Just not as jacked as Phillips is. Okay.
To be fair, not many human beings are as jacked as Glenn Phillips.
True. Yeah, so this is a very RCB style lineup, isn't it? Without the Hazelwood and the Bouvier. Score 250 if you can, best case scenario, and then concede 220, 230. Or, adjust those.
That is a formula for, I think, at least 4 teams. There is an SRH, there's a KKR, there is a CSK, there's an RCB. Your batsmen have to over-deliver because your bowling lineup is shit. You can't. So these 4 teams cannot control the bowling power play. They can't. It's a lottery. If they get 4 wickets or 2 wickets, they're great. But it happens. Even with Hazelwood and Bouvier in the RCB team.
See, the only difference between them is Hazelwood and Bouvier. I feel Ellis would make this a really good bowling.
But see, the problem is if Bouvier and Hazelwood bowl 6 overs, then the other 14 go for it plenty. So they have to break these up. And the moment you let go, if you bowl them only 3 of the 6, the other 3 are going for 50 runs. So for most teams. So it is pretty much they're in the same boat.
But Nirav, they have 8 overs they can turn to. We don't have 8 overs to turn to. Name me one bowler who can you can be like, okay, he's gonna do well today. Tell me one bowler from here who's not Shivam Dubey.
There's a little bit of Matt Henry erasure happening right now. The guy's he's been a pretty bankable bowler for New Zealand the last decade.
No doubt. Yeah, he's probably
and Noor is pretty good.
No, they're good, man. But okay, same tangent again. But Henry and Duffy, both of them play for New Zealand. Who's the alpha male in that attack? Who's the
I
lead
would
guy
say
in that
Henry.
attack?
I would say
Yeah,
Henry.
and who's had a better IPL so far?
That's one game in Chinnaswamy. Yeah?
Exactly.
Two, he destroyed our top order, and he took like
That's
3
it.
in the first game against SRH. SRH is a bloody good batting lineup, man, and they made runs as well. You can't say
That's it.
it's just CSK.
He's not good enough to go into his team.
No, Henry's
That's
going
how
at
bad he
12. Henry's going at 12 and over consistently.
He's come up against tough times, and I think he's too good a bowler for you to like disregard. Again, he will not have 14 bad games.
But no, I'm not saying he'd have 14 bad games, but his skill set is something you could find in Indian bowlers, right? I'm not saying Khalil or Kamboj would do it as good as him. If you had Ellis here, he'd slot straight in because he is a really good death bowler, and that's what we need. How many Indian death bowlers aside from Yash Dayal have you seen in the last couple of years? Besides
There
Abhinandan
are
as well.
enough.
Reasonably
There's enough.
decent.
There's a guy called Bumrah who plays for.
Oh, come on.
There have been fairly. I mean, most teams have
forget
fairly.
about Yash Dayal
Sandeep
again.
Sharma, Mukesh Kumar, T. Natarajan. Pretty much everybody has a one deal. I mean, death bowler going at 12 is not a bad deal.
Yeah.
It's not a bad deal.
Okay, fine. For every 5 new ball bowlers that are of IPL quality, there is one death bowler, or the ratio is something like that.
But there are like how many truly great death bowlers are there right now? Like you take
Ellis, Stark,
right? Ellis is
Stark's
not the
been
same
good.
level of Bumrah and Stark. Come on.
Ellis isn't that far off, man. He's been really good over the last 2 years. He started the Qatar thing a couple of years
He's been
ago.
decent, but he's not. You can't say Bumrah, Stark, and Ellis in that.
Okay,
order.
fine. Bumrah, Stark, Ellis somewhere here, and I'd have Ngidi in that bracket as well. I mean, after that T20
Ngidi is a very good death bowler.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So DC
There's a lot
seems to
more
have
death bowling
3
outside India than there is in India, which Yeah, I mean, you could chalk it up to luck as well. What if Hazelwood played the T20 World Cup and got injured instead of the other way around, Ellis being injured? RCB would be screwed right now because as it is, you only have I'm not saying it's purely luck, but some of it is. Okay, I think enough rambling about CSK from my end. Unless you guys have anything to say, our Lord and Savior Nirav can write up the
We've
next
been talking for an hour and a half, and it's nearly 1 o'clock. So I think I'm okay with wrapping up now.
Let's call it a night. Thank you for everyone who's joined us.
Predictions, lads, predictions.
I'm going with the team which bats second.
Even
No,
with
but
the
I
CSK
think TC has the edge because again, as we just discussed, they have potentially T. Natarajan, Ngidi, Mukesh, Akshar Patel, guys at the top, guys at the death, Kuldeep Yadav. So a vastly superior bowling attack. And but then again, I think in their top 3, CSK has the more explosion. So the ceiling of CSK's top 3 is higher than DC's top 3.
Yep, completely agree with that. If I were to give my predictions for both games, it's Punjab and Delhi.
Yeah, same here. Punjab and Delhi.
The North rules.
For once.
For once. Chalo. Calling it night there. Thank you guys for joining us.
Please like and subscribe.
This has been the Cow Corner Dugout, and find us on YouTube. It's a nascent channel. We're trying to build up our numbers. Please support us, join us, and we'll be back tomorrow for a review of the doubleheader. The watch along will be online at 11 p.m. sharp. Thank you. Good night.